welcome to Emerging Voices, an Emerging Leaders Program podcast series. And guess what? It's season 2 of the podcast, if you can believe it. Yeah, this is Matt Markin here. And I don't know, did she return for season 2?
I think she did. I think she's here. I'm Bri Harvie, and I'm excited for season 2.
Bri, how are you?
Oh my gosh, it has been a wild ride. It's great. How are you?
Same thing. It's been a wild ride. Now, of course, anyone listening to this, it's 2026 at some point, but Bri and I are recording this in December. And before we started recording, of course, I was like, yeah, I thought things would slow down in December. Happens every December. You think it's going to slow down, and it doesn't. So it's wishful thinking.
Never. It never does. Every year it's a surprise when it doesn't slow down.
Yeah, and then we were also talking about when was the last time we saw each other, and it was at the NACADA annual conference in Vegas in October, which to me seems like it was so long ago.
It does. It feels like it was like months ago, but it was only 6 weeks ago. And it also feels like it was yesterday, all at the same time.
What did you have going on during annual conference? Because I only saw you one time in passing, and we had to have like a quick conversation, and then we had to move on with our day.
It's, that's the trouble, I think, sometimes with annual. And I love going to annual conferences, and I love getting to see all the people. But I think it's one of the perks of the regional conferences is annuals are huge. And the venue this time around, we were at Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas, and it was so giant. It felt like if you saw somebody in passing, they were often running to the other side of the complex, and it was a lot this year. And I know it's not just me, but anybody involved in NACADA too. Like, we have to go a couple of days early because we have meetings for a few days. So I find often by the time the conference starts, I'm tired. I'm ready for it to be done. And they're like, "Oh, it's the opening reception. Great. It seems like I'm ready for this."
You're tired, and then the people who are like new to annual conference that fly in maybe that day or the day before, they're all energized and they're like, "Why are you tired?"
Yes. And you're like, I need a nap. I need a nap, and I need less stimulation. And I'm a very introverted person, so I need my battery recharge time. And it is a hilarious thing to start a conference and be like, listen, my social battery is gone, so I'm gonna need some quiet time. It's just great, and I love getting to see everybody, and I love getting just to reconnect and hang out with all my people. Right, like these are my people, and I belong among them, and I love getting to see them all once a year, all together in the fall. How was yours? Because must be crazy with the stickers and the pins and everybody. Like, you're like NACADA famous.
Oh my god,
that must be crazy.
You're NACADA famous. I am not. I decided I was gonna go a day or two early because I was like, my partner. I was like, you should come to Vegas, because once I told him, I was like, Tears for Fears is in town. Hey, I want to do the Grand Canyon tour. I want to go to the Sphere and see Wizard of Oz. He was like, oh, because he wasn't planning to go with me, because he's like, it's Vegas. It's like 4.5 hours away from where we are. So he decides to go, and we just spent like the whole day, doing fun stuff, ending it with like a fancy dinner. And then the following day was the Grand Canyon tour. And I thought I planned it correctly. I was like, I'll make it back for the opening keynote. Nope, did not.
Just straight up missed it. I love that.
It's like, no, yeah. But I will say Wizard of Oz at the Sphere was amazing.
Oh, I'm choked I didn't go. There's just so much. It's the thing with Vegas, right? There's so much to see and so much to do. And I didn't go, and I've been kicking myself since I got back, especially in like Wicked Mania right now in the whole wide world, getting to see in the Sphere. I haven't seen anything in the Sphere yet. And I was disappointed because the Backstreet Boys weren't going to be there when we were there. And I was heartbroken. And then it was like I saw that it wasn't them. It was just like, well, then I'm not interested in anything. I just kept hearing about people sing The Wizard of Oz. It was so sad I didn't go. Oh, it would have been cool.
Oh no, to see Backstreet Boys, like when they said it was going to be in Vegas, and I was like, oh, Backstreet Boys has a residency. I was like, oh, let me go on the dates, let me get tickets, I was like, oh no, their residency ended.
Right, like 3 weeks before. It was so
Yep.
fast. We did go. There was a really cool place I've never been before, and I think it was called the Infinity Museum. And it was like off the beaten path. We ended up in the craziest Uber rides where we were being driven down like terrifying alleys, and I was convinced we weren't going to make it back to the hotel alive. But it was just where this place was, and it was totally fine. But it was like a walk-in exhibit, and there was all these different rooms, and like the one that was the most wild was you walk into a life-size kaleidoscope and everything kind of moves around you. And I was like, only in Vegas, right? Like, where else would you
Sure.
find a human-sized kaleidoscope? There's one room that had all these like giant inflatable balloons and balls of different sizes that you could like they weren't helium filled, but they were filled with something that made them kind of buoyant, but not all the way buoyant. And I don't know what gas it was, but I was like, I could spend days in here. Like it was just so relaxing just to like watch them all float around. And that was very cool. And like off the beaten path. And so there wasn't a lot of people, which was great. But I didn't get to see Wizard of Oz, which is also kind of a trippy experience. But I did get my own little trippy experience at the Infinity Museum.
Yeah, you still got to have some fun. I mean, conference-wise, I don't feel like I was as busy as I've been in the past with the annual conferences, but it was still like how it was scheduled with sessions and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get to really see many folks. So like people like Michael Sorsosimo from Region 9 and Thomas Shelley from Region 8, like I had like we were texting, I was like, we're gonna meet up, and same with you, like we're gonna hang out, enjoy ourselves, and it just didn't work out. Schedules just did not align, and next year we have to make it work.
Well, obviously next year. Did you present at this one at all? I didn't even ask you when I saw
you. Yeah. So Ryan Sheckle and I had a poster session about using comic book characters to discuss imposter syndrome.
Oh my God, you have the coolest presentations.
Well,
that sounds awesome.
And well, in our proposal, I cited you because you've done an AAT article about it.
I have.
Yeah, so I don't think I ever told you that. So thank you.
Listen, I'm very important.
You are, though. You are important.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. How did it go? I've never done a poster.
Oh, I love posters. I think if I could just do poster sessions, I'd do that. I just like how informal it is, and people walk up to you, and if they have questions, they'll ask, or you can engage them. Some just kind of walk by and take a picture of your poster. But it's like you do all your prep and it's on your poster versus like going to a concurrent session. Now it's like I got to present for an hour. So it was almost like you're having these mini conversations with individual people during that 1 hour for the poster. So it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. I feel like I love going to see them. I've never done one. And maybe it's because I would probably bust out the like poster board like I was in the 3rd grade.
With a trifold?
Yes. And like sit down with my magazines and like hodgepodge them. Like I don't even know what to do, but they're always so cool. And I love the variety that you get. And I like that it can be more two-way communication, right? So it's not just listening to somebody for an hour, even if they have discussion built into it and whatnot. It's just not the same. So I love that for you. And then I feel like you did one with Kyle and Melinda.
Yeah, so Sherry Souza, who's at the Stupsky Foundation, she was a previous Region 9 chair and conference co-chair. We co-facilitated a panel with Melinda and Kyle, kind of bringing in past and current executive directors of NACADA, and it was kind of like the state of NACADA. And here's these questions that probably a lot of people want to know answers to, and it's like, well, who else to ask? And then here's the past and current executive director. So we had the easy job of just like, here's the questions people want to know. You have the tough part of it.
I feel like that would have been really interesting, especially given like pre and post pandemic worlds, right? Because Melinda was like in the thick of it right as we were coming out of the pandemic, and now Kyle is like
what does post-COVID NACADA look like? That would have been, yeah, really interesting. And so were those the only ones you did? I feel like you usually do like...
No, and then...
There you go. See? I knew that.
Yeah. Well, and if anyone's interested, like, oh, I missed that session, or I didn't even go to Vegas, go to one of the Adventures in Advising podcast episodes. We did a recording of it, and you can listen to it there. And that one also has Charlie not on that one because he wasn't able to make it to annual conference. But literally right after that, I had to run to another session. So Craig McGill and I did one on the Adventures in Advising podcast as a case study in terms of like, what do people think of the podcast? Like, is it professional development? Does it lead to public facing scholarship? And that was kind of really my first, I think, real entryway into actual research writing. And so Craig, it was great because he was very patient with me because I was like, I've never done stuff like this before. So he really kind of had to really spell it out for me. Like, you should do this and this and this, and kind of taught me in a very fast pace what research really is.
Do you think you'll do more? Like, did you love it? Did you get the research bug, or were you like, one's plus five?
We'll see. Because I will say, like, it was my first understanding of the IRB process. And so we went through Craig's institution at K-State, and I still had to do like 2 trainings and submit my certificates that showed I completed it. But over a 2-week period, it was like 9 hours worth of trainings that I had to do. And Craig was like, even if this, even once we submit this IRB form and answer all their questions, and even though you go through all this training, this still may get denied. And of course, he tells me this halfway through my, hours of training I'm doing. And I'm like, now I feel like it's not even worth it.
Yeah. IRB it's a wild ride. It is. I think it's what stops a lot of people from doing research. And I get it because it's so aggressive. But important. Like, you got to do it. It's necessary. But so now I'm going to ask you a question. What would you recommend to somebody starting research for the first time? What do you think, other than IRB, like, what kind of challenges did you come up against while you were going through this as somebody who's not really living in that space day to day?
Yeah, I think what I've learned is like, you really have to take the time to focus on it. And it's not something you can be like, yeah, I'll take 15 minutes here and then 15 minutes here throughout the day. It's like, you really have to like zone in on it. Yeah. And it's a lot of the double and triple and quadruple checking everything. Like, we analyzed like the first 100 episodes of the Adventures in Advising podcast, and it was kind of going through the transcripts, listening to the episodes. We interviewed avid listeners, and then it's trying to see what are the kind of connections between all of this. And then it's trying to find, are there certain themes? And then once you do have themes, can you narrow it down to like 4 or 5? And it just felt like it was this like repeating process. And I'm like, at some point, I'm like, this is getting very tiring, but is it going to be worth it in the end? Hopefully.
Was it worth it in the end?
I think so. I mean, it's still what at the time of this, like, hopefully we can get this published somewhere. But just to go through the whole process and to be able to present on it, and here's the work we've done, and for other people to listen to it and be like, oh, this really sounds great, or, this motivates me to do, start my own podcast or do my own research. It's like, okay, I think in the end, it definitely was worth it.
That's awesome. It's especially when it's something that's so personal to you, right? Like, it must have been hard to kind of to dig into it and be like, oh dear God, I hope I don't learn that this is actually all for naught.
Yeah, and especially too, like, interviewing and seeing like, okay, well, what do people really think of the podcast, and trying to take off like my podcaster hat and be like, okay, now I'm here. I'm as a kind of researching it as a writer. So that took some getting used to.
So, a question about podcasting and you, Matt Markin. How did you get into podcasting? Because you have Adventures in Advising and you have Emerging Voices, and now you're helping out with the pickup meeting. And first of all, how did you get into it? Also, where do you find time for all of these things?
Well, and I guess anyone listening that's like, aren't you supposed to be interviewing a guest? So with this being season 2 in the first episode, Bri and I are actually interviewing each other. So
We're just hanging out.
we're just having a nice
Hanging
little
out.
chat. Well, the podcast thing started in 2019. So I was at the international, I think the last NACADA international conference, which was in Belgium. And I just remember I was at the reception. I was about to leave. And Charlie Nutt is like, hey, I want you to meet this other person, Colin Cronin. And he says, okay, you guys should talk. And then Charlie literally just like turns and walks away and leaves. Like,
love that. Very
like,
Charlie.
Yep, very Charlie. And we're like, oh, I guess we need to start talking. And so we just talk about advising, our kind of interest and in media. And then we're like, well, Charlie wants us to talk. Maybe we can think of some ideas and bring it back to him. And so a podcast idea came up. And he was like, you know what, just wait on it, you know, because I think there was potentially another group that was thinking about doing a podcast. And so we all were at the same conference later that year in Louisville at the annual conference for NACADA. And Colin and I went up to Charlie and said, hey, what about that podcast idea? And he said, you know what, go for it. And he was like, I know nothing about podcasts, so you all figure it out. And Colin and I are like, we don't know anything about podcasts either.
Also very Charlie.
Yeah. We didn't think we were going to be the ones to do it. We just had the idea. And he's like, no, run with it. So yeah, we were like YouTubing, Googling, trying to figure it out. I will not go back and listen to like the first, 20 episodes of the podcast. I was forced to when I had to work with Craig on the research on the case study, but that was painful just to, hear where you started out. It's like, oh, okay. I'm glad I've grown up a little bit.
That's fair. That's fair. We found our groove.
But yeah, I mean, I've just enjoyed it. And then, I was like, knowing you, I was like, I got to do something with Bri. And so I'm glad that this worked out for Emerging Voices. And then the pickup meeting was like, Kevin and Brody are just awesome guys. And so I was like, they have some wonderful conversations. I would love to produce something for them.
How do you find time for this? Is this something that you find like it doesn't? So when I think of like outside of your regular job stuff, there's things that drain your battery and things that fill your cup. Is this a cup filler for you?
It depends on the day.
Fair.
I don't get paid for this. You don't get paid for this either. And so it's more for fun, but we know it's an important job to get these stories out. And we know people listen to these podcasts and we know people are learning from it. So it's like, let's keep it going. And I think that's kind of like the drive for me to keep doing it. But I am very conscientious of like, okay, I want to make sure I still have my time to have my mental rest. But I also kind of think of like when I'm editing episodes and the audio and all of that, it's a little bit therapeutic for me as well, because it lets me kind of focus on one thing versus having my brain think about 1,000 other things that I got to do. But yeah, so right now everything's good, but I always tell people like at the point I know like I am burnt out, then I know that's the time to quit, or at least take a rest.
Yeah, that's fair. That seems like a good boundary to set right out the gate.
But I want to ask you because, you've been doing a heck of a lot of things in NACADA, like a lot of leadership stuff. Like you could, like after even cycling off as region chair, you've continued on in the leadership role, and then even going into the consulting portion of things for NACADA. So I'm interested to kind of learn from you more about how that's all gone.
It's had its ups and downs. If we're going to be totally honest, it has its challenges for sure. And I mean, I'm still doing it, and like podcasting, I don't get paid for it, so it must be going okay because I keep signing up for more. But so I started on the steering committee in 2017 on the Region 8 steering committee as an interim Alberta liaison. At that point, it was 2017 in November was my first meeting, so right after the annual conference. I don't even remember where it was. I didn't go that year. And I was like 400 months pregnant and starting on the steering committee, and then used NACADA to kind of keep my foot in the advising world while I was on my maternity leave. And I'm going to rub this in just a scooch, but being from Canada, we get a year. And so I really I really value the work that I do, and I didn't want to lose it entirely for a year. So NACADA gave me that kind of that just a little window into what's going on in the advice world while I was off with my tiny human. And then it just one thing kind of morphed into another, and I ended up staying on a second term as provincial liaison, and then I ended up as region chair, and it's been wild. And I think being region chair, first of all, I started region chair during COVID, so that was a lot. Just at the end of COVID, but it was a hard time to be in a professional development world because there was not a lot of people really value the in-person connection, and you couldn't do it, and so it was trying to get as much of the same good things out of virtual offerings, which is never as great, but it was fine. And then at that same time, I signed up to be an emerging leader. I was a mentee in the Emerging Leaders Program. Right, that started in 2020. And then I became region chair about a year in, which was also hilarious because I was having trouble goal setting in COVID, and we were in an all ELP meeting. So, and I was sharing that I was having trouble coming up with some goals. And somebody was like, "Well, I just went for region chair," and I was like, "Yeah, right." And then I did, and it was great. It was wild. I learned a lot, and then coming out of being region chair, I wanted to kind of keep my foot in that world in NACADA leadership, and so that's when I ran for the regional division rep on NACADA Council, and that's where I am right now. And I think the ups and downs that come with it are that I really value the work, and I love the people. The people that get involved in NACADA leadership aren't there for any reason other than being passionate about the work that we do. Where the downs come in is that it's tricky being the only Canadian on the NACADA Council and kind of trying to balance not being the token Canadian and not being the person that's just always like, "Well, about Canada," but also making sure that Canadian members have a voice, and it can feel like a lot at times, being both of those things, depending on what we're discussing, like which hat do you have to wear. So there's a lot of bouncing back and forth, and I value it, but it is challenging at times. And through all of this, I'm now also a mentor in the Emerging Leaders Program, which has been a hoot, as always. And then, yeah, just this last year, I was like, I should do this consulting thing. I really like, so you like doing your posters. I really like doing like your concurrent lecture style presentations. I like the research that goes into them. I love presenting, which is a hilarious thing for an introvert to say, but I do. And I was asked to do the keynote at last year's Region 8-9 conference in Alaska, and just had the best time. And I was like, well, this is something I really enjoy doing. And I got decent feedback on it, like definitely some room for improvement, but people seemed to like what I had to say. I was like, maybe I should do this more. And so I applied for NACADA Consulting and was accepted kind of early summer this year. And so there hasn't been a lot that's come out of it since then, but I'm excited for the opportunity to maybe go do some reviews with some folks. I've done reviews in my day job before, advising reviews, and see what kind of speaking gigs come up. Yeah, it's great. I love it. It's kind of my like little side hustle gig that it gives me a lot of joy.
Yeah. And I don't know how it works with like the Administrator Assessment Institute, but I could see you being a faculty member on those for NACADA.
You know what? I have no idea how that works.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
I mean, if you want something else to add to your plate.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I do feel like I may be missing out on some NACADA things.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking because at the time of this recording, I've just been seeing a lot of like social media posts from NACADA about the institutes and some of the faculty now that they're highlighting, and I'm like, I could totally see Bri on this.
Oh, interesting. Well, now I have to look into it.
I think you do.
And I don't even know where to start, so I'm gonna have to ask somebody because I've been seeing those on LinkedIn too. A lot of people being like, "This is why I'm faculty."
Let me ask you this as an introvert, because like you like to present, I like to present. But I'm one where, like, leading up to it, that's when I start getting the nerves. And I'm like, oh, so like the day of, even like podcast recordings, like I'll do a little prayer in the corner, like I hope that the Wi-Fi cuts out and then we have to reschedule. Like, how are you when it's like, let me go up on stage for the keynote, or let me go up to do my concurrent session? Are you just like, I just got to do it, and I built up my energy for it, or there's still like I wish I could back out at the last second?
You know what? It's the one thing that I don't get that I wish I could back out at the last second for. Anything else, like there is nothing better than canceled dinner plans on a snowy day. Like I just want to stay home. And you're like, oh no, that's so sad. And I'm already in my sweatpants and putting my slippers on and getting ready. But I don't get that before speaking. I just love doing it. And I don't get the nerves. I get like the anxious energy, but it's not a nervous energy. I think it comes from, I grew up dancing. I did a lot of performing and competing in that world. And then my undergrad was in vocal performance. And so I think I just learned the tools early to be able to kind of master those nerves and channel them into energy. And I don't know, it's a hilarious thing to experience because I get so much energy from doing it, and I really feed off of the energy of the audience. And then as soon as it's done, I'm like, now I need to go hide in a dark closet for like an hour, and then I'll be fine again. But it's like a roller coaster of like I get such a high out of it, and then I just crash hard after. So I don't get the nerves. It's more of an after effect. It's interesting seeing kind of where people are at when they're at conferences and where different people's energies kind of ebb and flow. Like I know a lot of people don't like the morning sessions because people are still just waking up. I love doing morning sessions because I like to wake people up. And some people really like doing those smaller sessions towards the end of the conference. And so it's interesting from a presenting perspective, but also interesting from an attending perspective, just to see kind of where people are sitting. I went to one. Yeah, I was in Vegas, and it was hilarious and it was great. And it was towards the end of the day, and it was Halloween themed, and it was the only Halloween themed presentation I saw the entire time. And like they commented, they were like, we expected everybody to be doing Halloween. And I think even having like it was towards the end of the day, they were coming at it with a very vulnerable, like we thought everybody was gonna have like ghosts and pumpkins, and nobody did. So we're the only ones. And sharing even that energy of like, oh my God, can you imagine the lead up to your presentation when you're seeing no ghosts and pumpkins, knowing that you have all ghosts and pumpkins. It was towards the end of the conference. And just being honest, like they were like, this is thrown us for a loop, but we're going to do our darndest. And it was great. And just, I think having them share too, like, this isn't what we expected. Maybe the audience and the attendees feel more like, okay, but so I can be who I need to be right now. I can just go hide in the corner, or I can engage, or whatever I need. So I say talk about it too. If you have that room of 5 people, be like, whoa, this is not at all what I prepared for. So let's bring it together and see what happens.
Yeah, and you just got to adapt on the fly. Speaking of, presenting and maybe tying into collaborations and kind of like our friendship and how we've been able to collaborate with our similar interests and have fun at the same time. And that was when at the Region 8-9 conference in Alaska with Thomas Shelley, and we got to chat about what else, pop culture, Star Wars and Star Trek, and how that connects to academic advising.
It was one of my favorite presentations I've ever done. When I think about and I talk about the bajillions of presentations I've done over the years, that one always comes to mind because it was just so niche. It's so wild, and I love telling the story of how it started, and so I'm going to share it now. But it's just, oh my gosh, I could talk about that one presentation for days. We were in Orlando at annual conference, and there was this random cage full of tiny finches, and it was where Thomas and I always met, because Thomas and I was finishing up as region chair, he was coming in as region chair, he'd been an Oregon liaison and heading our mentorship program, and we got to be really close through NACADA, and we were hanging out, and I think we had just gotten back from, we went for a walk trying to see if we could find any alligators, and we couldn't. We were just hanging out at the bird cage, and you came by, and I knew who you were. This is like, it's NACADA famous. I don't want to like fangirl, but it's not my favorite. And Thomas was like, well, this is bad, you should chat. And Thomas said something about how you were also a Trekkie, and that just like launched me into a tirade. And we ended up standing there talking forever about Star Trek and Star Wars, which is hilarious because Thomas doesn't know them. And so he was then just standing there like, why am I here? This is ridiculous. And then we joked about what if we did a presentation? And that led to the presentation. And I love getting to do it. It was also like, wasn't that one at like 8:30 in the morning one day? Like that was so early.
Oh yeah, it was
so
like
gross.
the first session in the morning. Yeah.
Yeah. So gross. But and you want to get me really excited. Let me talk about advising and Star Trek all at the same time. And that will wake me up. But like sharing something so niche with a room full of people that are like, you know what, I get what they're saying, and this is really awesome. And it was so much fun and hilariously moderated by Thomas, who was like, I don't know what any of these words are, and I think some of them might be made up. And it's, oh my God, it was great. And it's like, that brought us closer together. And now we're doing a podcast, and we have another presentation that we proposed for this year's 8-9. Like it's crazy, and it's so great how collaboration can happen through presentations and like across the continent, and we can still present on the same stuff.
Yeah, or
so good.
Even going further to say like just randomly running into one another and then having a conversation, and then that sparks, oh, pop culture. Oh, we have that in common. Oh, how can we make this a presentation? Yeah, we're joking, but now we're serious at the same time. So this is advice to anyone. Yeah, just run with any ideas, throw all your ideas against the wall and see what sticks, and have absolute fun with it. And even if you think it's something niche, who cares? There's probably other people at a conference that are gonna want to, whether they want to learn about advising, if they just want to talk about Star Trek or Star Wars, hey, you have people that are going to show up to it.
Absolutely. And I feel like as a group, we feel like a lot of what we like is niche, but there's a lot of really nichey people.
Yeah, I mean, I think we proved that in Alaska. We had a pretty decent
packed a room
showing up at 8 something in the morning.
Yes, I did, and I love getting the feedback and hearing what other people learned. From that particular one, my favorite piece of feedback was the one that was just like, I didn't know anything about Star Trek or Star Wars, so maybe this wasn't the session for me. And I laughed when I read it because I was like, you're right, it probably wasn't. That one, I think we got like solid 3s across the board, 3 out of 5. It's like, that's fine. Yeah. But also a hilarious choice for somebody who doesn't know anything about Star Trek or Star Wars and doesn't really want to. But lots of great feedback about like how you could make it into a paper or how we could make it into another presentation. Like the learning that comes out of it from a presenter's experience is also always really amazing.
Yeah, well, I mean, of course, by the time this episode comes out, I mean, annual conference proposal deadlines are already passed, but this could be something whether we want to submit it as a poster or as a concurrent session for annual.
Oh my God, we should totally do it as a poster. That would be the most. I would totally cut things out and put them on my trifold.
Perfect.
Because I'm great.
So of course, this being Emerging Voices, we were both emerging leaders and now finishing up our last year as mentors. What made you originally apply as an emerging leader?
I feel like to a certain, or at a certain level, or to a certain extent, I knew I wanted to get more involved in leadership, and I didn't know how to do it. I felt like, and this is, I know something a lot of people see in NACADA, but it's a lot of the same people. Like, the people that are on the board, and the people that are on the council, and so kind of who's heading into which positions. And I didn't know how to get my name out there and how to become more known, or if that was the right place for me. And so it came from an interest in trying to understand more about how NACADA leadership worked. Now, what made it hilarious was when I was applying, they have to write a letter and talk about your NACADA experience. And I was like, I'm already super involved. So do I need to do this? And I was like, I'll throw my name in, and was accepted. It was great. And I think that's one of the great things about the ELP program is I was already very, very involved in the region level, but I didn't know anything about the administrative division, the advising communities division. And so it helped me kind of see where I could fit in those places as well. And I think that was, I don't know if it was conscious or subconscious, but I definitely think I just needed to learn more about what NACADA leadership looks like. And kind of, it was a very last minute decision, just threw my name into the hat and was like, I don't know, we'll see what happens. But how about you? Because you were before me. You were the class.
Yeah, I was the 2017 cohort, 2017 to 2019. Yeah, I feel like mine was a little opposite, where I applied early, but I originally thought NACADA was just conferences. Like that's what they did. You go to conferences, you learn, or maybe you present as well. And so I got like the presentation bug in like 2015 when I did my first poster session. And I was like, I got to keep coming back to these conferences. And then at some point, my now director was like, is that all NACADA does is conferences? You know, that's great if they do. But because I would always keep asking, can I go to the next conference? Can I go to the next conference? And I would always get accepted for a presentation. And he's like, this is great, but I feel like you've kind of mastered this already. There's always something to present on, but go on their website, go look at see what else NACADA has to offer. And then I kind of stumbled upon the Emerging Leaders Program, and I sent it to him. I was like, what do you think about this? And he was like, yeah, why don't you apply for it? And then I was like, oh, really? Should I? I was hoping he was going to say no. And so then I submit it, and I get the email going like, congrats, you got in. And then that's where it kind of hit of like, oh crap, okay, I'm really doing this. I felt the imposter syndrome, not just then, but it really hit when I went to orientation whatever 2017 conference was. But we go in there, and it seemed like a lot of the emerging leaders knew each other and also knew some of the potential mentors. And I didn't know one person. I knew some of them, like you had Jennifer Jocelyn. I was like, oh my God, that's a star in NACADA.
Oh my God, she's a legend.
Right, exactly. And it's like, oh my God, these could be potential mentors. I know when we had to do, I don't know if you ended up having to do this, but it was like kind of like the dating game kind of thing where you had like 5 or 10 minutes with each potential mentor, and you're basically kind of sell yourself. And I remember John Sauter was one of the potential mentors, and I had like Googled before going to the conference, like what could be questions to ask potential mentors, and one of them was like, how can I help you with maybe something you're doing? And so I asked that question to John, and he was like, I don't think that's how it's supposed to go. And I was like, died inside. And John's one of the nicest people ever. It's just like, it was like, ooh,
oh gosh,
that I hit a nerve.
Not starting off well.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, I know looking back, I kind of regret not trying to get as more involved, getting to know a lot of the other emerging leaders and mentors. But that was I think it was just me just being super shy and just feeling like I shouldn't be here. Because everyone had these goals of like, I want to be chair, I want to be president, or I want to do this. And I'm like, I'm just happy to be in NACADA. I'm just trying to figure out what NACADA has to offer, and then I'll try to find like what interests me. And that was like a 1.5 year journey, kind of figuring all that out. So I feel like I was a late bloomer. Like a lot of stuff happened after Emerging Leaders was done.
But it probably still happened because of, in some ways, not all.
Absolutely.
Of them, right.
Yeah.
And I think that's the one of the great things about NACADA and about the Emerging Leaders program is even if you don't see the benefits while you're in it, you'll still benefit afterwards. And I know it's a critique that NACADA gets sometimes about being kind of cliquey, and I don't think that it's cliquey. I think it's just that people really care about other people. And if you're willing to kind of have your name thrown out there into the wind, people will champion you and support you and figure out how to keep you involved in whatever way makes most sense for you. And it's one of my favorite things about ELP, and I encourage everybody to do it. But it's just about meeting those people.
Oh yeah. And but I definitely feel like there was still the connection piece. Like as much as I didn't, get to know everybody, like Wendy Schindler was one of the emerging leaders in the cohort I was in, and she introduced me to Craig McGill, and I mean, and that has spawned various, projects with him and a friendship with him. So I mean, that's one example, but yeah, I feel like it was definitely still worth it. I wish I was not as shy and tried to do more things during my time as an emerging leader, but I think it gave me the foundation to kind of help me be brave to do things afterwards, which is kind of why I ended up applying as a mentor, because I felt like I wanted to go full circle. And yes, as much as I've tried to give back within NACADA, it's like this could be another way to give back within the Emerging Leaders Program, as much as it helped me as an emerging leader.
What has your being a mentor experience been like? I know we're like a year into it now, but how has that been for you?
Oh, I feel it's been great. So I still trying to figure out how to describe the pods kind of thing. I just look at it as like, look, we have 6 mentors and 12 emerging leaders, and each mentor is assigned to two mentees, 2 emerging leaders. So I got Brandon Lewis, who's an online academic advisor at UAlbany, and Jing Yao, an academic advisor at the University of British Columbia. And however Joan and the team kind of designate who is connected to which mentor, whatever formula they use, I feel like it works, because I feel like I've been able to connect with Brandon and Jing. We feel like as a group, we meet monthly or try to meet monthly. But there was still kind of like that imposter syndrome of like, okay, should I really be a mentor? Because I don't have like the title. Like I'm not an administrator of any sort. I don't want to be. But I've just been in the game for a long time. And so far, I mean, yeah, a year in, I feel like it's been a great connection with them. One thing we've been doing over the last few months is we have our monthly meeting, but about half of the time in the meeting, I'll bring in a guest speaker for them to kind of build out the network. Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
So they get to learn from someone else that's within NACADA or NACADA adjacent. They get to ask them questions. And then at the end, it'll be like, hey, and then are you okay if they connect with you on LinkedIn? So now they can kind of build out their network, not just within NACADA, but also like officially on social media as well. So yeah, I mean, so far they've had Brody Brashears and Kevin Thomas talked with them, Quentin Alexander, which that's actually a great example for Brandon because Quentin spoke. He was our first guest speaker, and both Brandon and Jean connected with Quentin. And Quentin was talking about the pre-conference he was going to do at the annual conference, and Jean was like, "I would love to have that PowerPoint after you do it." And like the next day after Quentin presented, emailed it to Jean, and then Brandon connected with Quentin, and they ended up working together to create a Men of Color social at the annual conference.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah.
So cool.
And the pictures I saw, they ended up having like 3 or so tables full of individuals for that social. And by far, from what I understand, it was the largest of the socials that went on during that day.
Awesome. Yeah. So good. I think that networking piece is amazing. And I love that idea. And I'm totally going to steal it.
Go for it.
It's my thought as well. So like, this sounds great. We have been not as consistent in meeting, which is 100% what it should be. And I have found that imposter piece is huge, right? Like it is wild. Yeah. I sit down. So the 2 mentees I have in my pod are Carol Irwin and Sarah Davis. And I sit down with them and I'm like, why am I hearing about all of these things? And I like the last time we met, and maybe this is just the Canadian in me coming out, but they were talking about very US things in advising. And I just like sat there and was just like, this is fun. I am definitely helping you a lot right now. But we've had opportunities to connect to other people and do some of that networking, and they both want to get a little bit into writing, which I have some experience in. And so like, it's still great to have, but like I didn't feel impostery as a I feel so impostery as a mentor. I'm just like, I don't. Can we switch roles? Like, could one of you mentor me, please? Because I feel like I want to be you when I grow up, not the other way around.
Yeah. No, and I still feel like that imposter syndrome, but I think for me, what's helped has been having those guest speakers, because I was like,
Yeah.
I may not have all the answers, or have been in similar situations as Brandon and Jing, but I've been in this game for a long time. I know a lot of people. So why don't I just bring their voice and have them chat with them? One of them we actually had was Maria, who's one of the current emerging leaders. And I was like, why don't you actually, come to our meeting. You could be our guest speaker, but also Jing and Brandon can share their knowledge of being a year in the program. And so they kind of got to mentor Maria for a little bit during that 1 hour meeting.
Very cool.
So, so it's a great way. I was like, as much as you're learning from these guest speakers, you have something to say too. So you can now share this information with them.
I think that's really valuable. And I know that's how when Thomas Shelley was building up the Region 8 mentorship program, that's why he ended up calling it a learning partnership, because it's not actually about a mentor and a mentee. It's we can all learn from everybody. And I think as much as the EOP program isn't structured that way, it still happens 100% of the time. But I think there's something valuable, especially in a regional level mentorship program, where it is a little bit smaller, it's a little bit less formal. Having it developed and structured as a partnership program where you don't have to feel like you have to be the expert is a great, like a gateway drug into mentorship programs, right? Like it's the easy start, a gentle start into, now I can feel like I can do ELP because I know what's expected. And being a mentor, I've learned more from the mentees than I ever would have imagined. And from the other mentors too, right? Like it's just a great way to make connections. And I think everybody should do it. I think everybody should do it all the time.
Oh, 100%. And whether it's like, maybe I don't feel I want to jump into EOP yet. Like maybe your region has a mentoring program and maybe you can be mentored for a year by someone. And then maybe you feel like, okay, I want to learn more and expand NACADA and be part of the leadership in NACADA. Yeah, then jump on board for emerging leaders. It's funny, like, we keep mentioning Thomas Shelley. He was one where, like, a couple years ago, I was like, we both were suggesting, like, apply for the Emerging Leaders Program. I think at this point, he'd be good as a mentor with everything he's done. Yeah, no longer emerging leader, apply as a mentor.
No, that man does more of his own volition than anybody else I know. Because the first time he talked about joining, he hadn't been an NACADA member long enough, and so he was like, "Well, I'll just give it a year." And in that year, he became a liaison. He ran for region chair. He's the chair of the LGBT community. Like he just took over the world.
Right.
And we're like, okay, well now maybe don't be a mentor or a mentee. Like you can tell somebody else how to do this. And I think that's one of the really great things about NACADA in general too, though, is like you can just jump into things and you'll figure it out. And like you didn't have to go through being a mentee to be able to do all these great things. And there's so many different opportunities. And I feel like a lot of people say no or don't put their hand up because they're worried, well, what if I don't know what to do? Like, let's be honest, none of us know what we're doing ever. Right. You just have to ask the right people or ask somebody and they will find you the right people.
Well, I think we're two good examples of two different stories of like, we both decided to apply. I applied early. You applied kind of towards the end before the deadline, but you kind of already had an idea of things that you may have wanted to throw in. And I was just like, I'm just still trying to figure things out, but we both did it. Luckily, we both got accepted and look where we're at now, Mom.
Right. Look what I did.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
And I think our journeys too, it's like, at this point too, like you're doing more within NACADA. I've kind of stepped back. And that's where I kind of got burnt out from a few things within NACADA leadership. Loved the experience in it, but I'm like, you know what? I kind of need to step back. I'll kind of be NACADA adjacent and do stuff. And that's going to, keep my cup full. Maybe at some point I'll go back, but who knows?
And that's the great thing about NACADA is you can step back and then jump back in again. And it's like using the two of us as an example too. We both started in the same place and being like, let's let's do ELP. Mine was literally like 11 o'clock and I closed it.
Yeah.
That's just who I am as a person.
Yeah.
But we both went through the exact same program, and our NACADA journeys have been so different, and our careers have been so different, and we can still connect and talk about, like, I feel like I could talk to you for years, and
Yeah.
it would be the world's longest podcast, and we could still connect and chat because of that shared connection of NACADA, right? Like, that's what NACADA is great for, is it connects people even if they have very different lives, different careers, different dreams, different everything.
Yeah. Wow. I feel like this actually, we're coming up on time. This actually is a great way to end this episode. And so anyone listening and you made it this far, congrats. Season 2 of the podcast, it might be more like this. So we're actually, for season 2, interviewing the mentors within the 2024 to 2026 cohort. Maybe there's a few other surprises, but for sure this will be a shorter season. Please go to season 1, listen to all the mentees. 11 of our mentees are emerging leaders in the 2024 to 2026 cohort. But yeah, you get to hear from the mentors, hear our stories, and we got plenty more coming up. But Bri,
it's gonna be great.
This has been fun.
This has been so much fun. You're the best.
Yeah.
It's so great.
See you next time.
Absolutely.